Welcome to the Investor Shed Podcast with Nick Beveridge, the ultimate source for all things investing and beyond. For free tools, tips, and tricks, go to northidahorei.com. Today's episode, Joe Turner returns as our host and interviews Hillary Beveridge. Joe and Hillary talk about working with your spouse on investment properties, Airbnbs, and understanding how the power of real estate investing can provide for a family. Stay tuned.
All right. Today's guest, first off, today we have a guest host. I am filling in for Nick Beveridge once again because I am interviewing his amazing wife, Hillary Beveridge. We thought it'd be fun to get a take on the spouse's perspective of investing. I don't know if any of our awesome listeners have to deal with differences in investment philosophies and getting their spouse on board, if maybe they're more or less risk adverse. So we thought it'd be a fun topic and conversation, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of between two ferns, we have a fake plant between us. So we're calling this segment A Fake Plant Between Us. Thanks for joining us, Hillary.
Why, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we just interviewed Nick on the last podcast and got his kind of history and journey with the investment world. So I guess, what is your first memory of real estate investing? And it's okay if you didn't have any thoughts of it, but just curious kind of where you even thought of real estate growing up.
Well, I mean, you always hear about people investing in real estate. People buying houses and renting them out and keeping them and then selling them when they're ready to retire and living off of that income. And in theory, it sounded like a great idea, but it also, to me, just seemed impossible. Like, how do you get your money to even buy your first house or to buy a second house? Or, you know, how do you even get started? And I do remember when I first met Nick, he mentioned he wanted to get into real estate investing and was talking about how he's been to all these seminars and taken all these classes and things like that. And he was a real estate agent in Florida and he wanted to get his license up here in Idaho. And I was just like, all right, you do you. I'm going to keep doing my job and everything. And kind of just thought that I'd stay out of it a little bit.
What were your real thoughts as far as, like, because you just started dating him, and he had any investments under his belt at that point?
He bought his first house in Kellogg before I knew him, and that failed miserably for various reasons.
He talked about that on the last show.
So that was the only experience that he'd had with it so far, other than just going to a lot of seminars, taking a lot of classes, studying up on it, listening to podcasts, basically just immersing himself in everything about real estate investing. So he hadn't really had any successful experience in it yet. But I do remember him saying that he hoped to be a millionaire by the time he was like 35, and I just kind of laughed and was like, okay. Which he's not yet, but
well, he's 33. He's got 2 years.
He's on his way. He's on his way. So, yeah, that was kind of the first conversation. And then once we were together for a while before we were married, though, he bought the cat house.
His first kind of flip investment. He talked about it, I think, a little bit last time. That's the one in Rathdrum where. Him and his brother kind of just flipped and made like $44,000, and he realized, holy cow, I made more on that just one stupid deal than being an agent or working in any other jobs, and that this could really be something. Yeah. So what did you think when he pulled that off, or did you think he was going to pull that off?
I did not think he was. So I'm more risk averse, so that's where I guess Nick and I differ. I see real estate investing and I've gone to seminars and I'm like, okay, it all looks good on paper and everything, but if it's so good on paper, why isn't everybody doing it already? Like there's got to be some catch. So, and I'm just more risk averse. I grew up being taught, get a steady job, save what you can, put money into a 401k, whatever, and retire on that. and basically like that you can't really like make money without having money saved to make money, sort of, you know. So when Nick was doing all these real estate seminars and they're like, use other people's money to make money. You don't have to have money to make money in real estate investing. It finally started to sort of click with me a little bit how that works. But just seeing how he did that with the cat house, because it was a seller financed deal, he just had to come up with the money to actually do the repairs and flip it.
Mm-hmm.
But so he bought the property as a seller finance deal, and then I can't remember how he got the funds to actually flip
Clint
it.
Paulson.
Yeah, and it was
Linda
only
Lee.
like they gave him like $20,000 or something.
Mm-hmm. And they YouTubed their way through the project.
Oh no! Now I remember. They actually did the snake house first.
Okay.
And they got the funds from the snake house that was funded by Clint Paulson.
These are called snake houses and cat houses because when they bought them, there was a snake in the house and then it was cats in the other house.
There were lots of cats in one house and lots of cat poo.
So they have very affectionate names.
Yes. So anyways, we bought the cat house first, but we couldn't do anything with it until we got funds from flipping the snake house with a private lender's money and made the profits to then use that to flip.
And all this time you're dating, right?
Yep, we were dating.
But you guys became serious pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we might have been engaged by the time we were doing the cat house or something. Okay. Yeah, we were. Yeah. Because then we got married when we had to live in the cat house for a little bit for capital gains.
Okay.
Stuff.
So you guys chose to move into one of the...
We lived in it for a few, like maybe 6 months so that we could have owned it for a year, I think. Was what it was.
Yeah. So if you own something less than a year, typically you're paying short-term capital gains. And if you can live in it for at least a year, then it's a much lower tax rate. Yep. So anyways, after seeing what Nick and his brother were able to do with these houses, that when I look at them, I just say tear them down. And then they're able to repair them and flip them and make a very nice profit. Those first two, before I was like, you're an idiot. You shouldn't do that. That's me being risk averse. And then he did it. And then I realized that he actually knows what he's doing. It helps that he's a real estate agent in the area, so he knows the market and he knows what he can get for properties once he does fix them. Mm-hmm. And it helps also that he is pretty... So when I say that I'm risk averse, he also actually sort of is, because he's smart with his deals. He's got like a whole workflow thing that he has to plug in all of his numbers and make sure that he has a good profit margin. Mm-hmm. He has a lot of wiggle room, honestly, with these deals. So now knowing that they're not just flippant risks that he's taking. He's not just flying by the seat of his pants and buying houses left and right and being like, maybe it'll work. Mm-hmm. He actually knows pretty much almost, 100% whether it's going to be a good deal or not. Even if we run into unforeseen costs, he's built in buffers for that, and we know that it's going to work out. So basically at this point, even though I still see these properties and I think, tear it down, if he seems to think that it's going to be good, I just let him go for it. So
I try and be supportive.
Did your mindset change at all when you went from just dating to married and he's taking on these properties?
Well, there are certain things, especially when we had our first child, when Aubrey was born. We were really broke right then. Like, I remember being in the hospital with her, and he's like...
That was 4 years ago. That was right. I actually met him that week.
He, had a bunch of stuff fall apart, a bunch of his real estate deals and stuff like that, and he didn't have any active investments or flips going on at the time. And so we just had a baby with problems in the NICU and stuff. And then he's like, I don't have any money right now. I should have had this money coming in from whatever deals, but they fell through.
And were you working?
I was working, and I had maternity leave and payment and stuff like that. So we were okay, but it was still, it was a little bit of, I guess, kind of like a reality check. Like, it's one thing that I still had income coming in, but when you rely on two incomes, it definitely was a little bit scary for a minute there. But he's since gone out and bought rental properties and stuff like that, which are cash flowing and have provided a big enough buffer on top of what he normally makes from buying and selling real estate and stuff like that, and just helping people buy houses or sell houses, that have replaced my income. So I don't have to work for the large bank that I used to work for.
Yep, and that just happened pretty recently,
At the start of this year.
Yeah. So about 6-7 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so we'll go back a little bit, though, to when you're married now, you just had the baby. Where's your mindset with him as far as investing, and how did you handle that?
I mean, I just really, as long as he had, his money for his portion of the bills that he normally paid and stuff like that, I kind of just let him do whatever he wanted to do, really. I mean,
how do you guys handle your finances, if you don't mind? Do you just have one account, or how do you kind of handle that part of it?
We used to have two until this year. I used to have, like, my accounts with all my stuff, and we kind of just divvied up our household finances between each other, kind of just however. We aren't really great with, like, a budget or sticking to a budget really strictly or anything like that.
You gotta buy those nachos and ice cream.
I know, you gotta buy those nachos and ice cream. But then this year when I quit my job and I wasn't going to be having a paycheck deposited into an account anymore, we just merged and just have the one account. Well, technically he has like 10 accounts for all of his businesses, but the one personal account that we really use for everything. So yeah, now we just live off of that, and I see exactly what he has coming in and or not.
Is that more, so you pay attention more than you ever used to? Is that calm your fears or actually increase your anxiety?
It calms my fears because it kind of does both. I see what we have available, I guess, a little bit more. Like before, when I was just looking at what I had, it was only half the picture, less than half the picture. Now I know, we're going without my old income, which was really a lot less in comparison to what he's making doing real estate investing and stuff like that. But I see all of the money that he has coming in. I also see all of the money that he has coming out because he's running a business with Joe, and they pay wages for multiple people, and there are business expenses and things like that. And it sometimes can be a little nerve-wracking to see, thousands and thousands of dollars for those things going out all the time. It's a liability. It's something that, you guys have to make sure that you're making that money every month to pay your employees and keep the business going, keep the businesses going.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you quit your job January 1st with the intentions to help Nick at all, or what was the plan?
It was to help Nick. So I'm supposed to be learning more about the flipping and investment side of real estate so that I can help him with those, so that he can focus on your guys' team and helping your customers buy or sell real estate. And all the things that you guys need to do to build your team up and stuff like that. So I am currently helping get all the permitting done for a new build for a house in Post Falls, a spec home, basically. And then Nick has bought a property out in Rathdrum that, as long as everything goes through fine with inspections and everything, we'll be flipping that. And I don't think we've decided yet fully whether we want to keep it as a rental or like try and Airbnb it, or if we're just going to flip it and sell it. So that's still
How do
kinda
you
up in
feel
the air.
about that? Is that like exciting, or are you like, well, how do you feel?
I like the 12th Street one because it's like everything's fresh from the ground up. There's not going to be much that's unexpected. We have all of our bids from our contractors and stuff. We know what the permits are going to cost. We know generally what lumber and everything is going to cost. So, I mean, like, I like that. It's not as mushy, I guess, of a deal. We know once it's built with the square footage and the bedrooms and the baths and the shop that we're going to put on there, what it's going to be worth and what we're going to make off of it. So I like that one. The one in Rathdrum scares me a little bit because it's an old house. It's a really old house. And while it looks like generally it just needs like some light-ish cosmetic fixes, it's not anything that was like a complete gut job like the cat house or anything. It's still really old. And it just worries me about what we're going to come across with it, sort of. But, like I said, he always builds in these buffers, and he has margins that are acceptable to him, and he did all the math and the homework on it. And
yeah, and there's lots of options. Like you said, you can keep it as a rental. You can just flip it. You could Airbnb it. You could tear it down and put a fiveplex on it, from my understanding.
Yeah,
so it's a great long-term play, potentially, is what we were just talking about. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of moving parts. And so I guess sometimes that can be daunting. I'm finding that can be daunting while I'm trying to help Nick with this side of his business. There are a lot of moving parts.
There are, and there are also 2 children involved. How old are they?
Aubrey is 4 and Holden is 1.5. So
how are you balancing all of this?
Fortunately, I mean, they're in daycare most of the time, but with all of the fun things that have been going on this year with COVID and everything, there have been some times where their daycares have been shut down, or they just have a runny nose and I just don't feel comfortable bringing them in there, and I just want to make sure that they obviously aren't having any symptoms of anything. You know, if I bring them in there, I want to help keep everybody we come into contact healthy. So there's a little bit of anxiety for dealing with that in this day and age. So I haven't been able to step into this new role as much as I had hoped, because there have been many instances where I've been stuck at home with the kids for a week or two.
Overall, okay, so this 7 months has been pretty crazy. You quit your job, COVID happened, you're trying to help Nick invest, the kids get sick on and off. I mean, compare this to like any other years when you just had a steady job, where do you think you feel?
Overall, I like this better because it does give me more flexibility to deal with the stuff that's going on with the kids and in the world right now. So, before, when I worked for a large company, although they were great and I had sick time and stuff like that, there's no way I could have done what I'm doing now and been able to stay home with the kids like I have this year. It would have, and as it had in the past at that company, there was a lot of anxiety whenever the kids got sick, because it was like either Nick had to rearrange his whole day to stay home with them, or I had to stay home with them. And even though they gave us sick days and things like that, it's still kind of a precarious position. And not to mention, like, they give me sick days for me. They don't give me sick days for my son and my daughter, you know? Like, there's going to be so many days in a year. It just stretches you pretty thin. So it's been really nice this year not having to be... not having to manage about, or to worry about working for the man.
Working for the man in the
I just work for Nick Beveridge.
Yes, so working for the man, and now you're more in the entrepreneur world, which, how do you think that your mindset has changed from, do you still feel like the comfort of, like with your kids, can you envision them like, hey, you really should go to college, get a job, save, or are you completely on the Nick Beveridge, like, you don't need to go to college, you need to do the things and learn that way and that kind of stuff?
I went to college. I still think college is really great for just getting a foundation for anybody. I think there's a lot of experiences that people can have in college that they wouldn't be exposed to otherwise, a lot of different points of view and things like that, and just knowledge. So I will still hope that my children choose to go to college, but I definitely don't think it's the end-all be-all. Obviously, Nick has taken a different path, and he's very successful in it. And whether you get your learning through traditional structured college, whatever, or you choose to go to a bunch of seminars and listen to podcasts and educate yourself and go to real estate class or whatever. I think you just have to be passionate about it, really, honestly. Like, case in point, I went to college. I wasn't passionate about what I was doing before. Mm-hmm. My husband didn't go to college. He's passionate about what he's doing. He makes a lot more money than I ever did. So I think if you're passionate about what you choose to do in life, mm-hmm. and you enjoy it, you'll most likely be successful.
How important do you think it is that you're interested, I don't know if you'd call it passionate about real estate, but being married to somebody very passionate about real estate, do you think you have to have a certain level of interest or passion for it as the spouse, or what would you say to that?
I mean, I think that you have to be aware of what they're involved in. I think it eases my mind to know what he's doing, and when he explains to me, this is my calculator that I use to figure out whether a deal's worth doing or not, mm-hmm. To know exactly how he decides to do a deal or not, mm-hmm. That eases my mind. So he
lives very hard by the 75% rule. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Do you want to explain that?
I don't know that I mean, basically, what he buys the house for and the funds that he needs to flip it, and any fees and things like that, they all have to come in under 75% of what the after repair value would be. So mm-hmm. basically, as long as he sees a 3-bedroom 2-bath house or whatever, and he knows that if it's fixed up nice, it can sell for $300,000, and he gets this deal for, well, I don't have a calculator right now, so I'm not going to go into the math, but basically all in for under 75% of that, then he knows it's a good deal. Then he's got that 25% buffer, basically, mm-hmm. that's going to be profit, hopefully. But if other things happen, he's got a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah. And I think that's why he has done well since his first disaster of the Kellogg mm-hmm. house. That, and we've been in unprecedented appreciation times, mm-hmm. too, where we've had double-digit appreciation in our area, which has certainly helped. Yeah. I would say, I think most of his deals still would have been profitable, but probably not as much without that. But
yeah. And as for the passion for real estate, I mean, I think it's helpful to be aware and to know what's actually going on. I am passionate about real estate because I've seen what it's done for our family. It's put us in a position that I never thought that we'd be able to be in. So, mm-hmm. In an about way, I'm passionate about real estate, but more just because I know that it's worked out really well for us so far, and it's going to be, we're all in now. So,
yeah, it's going to be the vehicle for a bit.
For doing everything that we want, mm-hmm. and getting everything we want out of life and stuff like that, and being able to take care of our kids. And
do you have any interest in listening to Bigger Pockets podcasts or reading books, or where do you stand on your own self-education about it?
I generally don't choose to do that on my own, more because I have 2 very small children and I don't have time mm-hmm. really to read that much at all right now. Or do anything that I want to do on my own. But on the few occasions that Nick and I have been able to, like, go on road trips or something without the kids, we'll usually listen to Bigger Pockets, or he has the audio book for, now I can't remember what it's called.
Millionaire Real Estate Investor? Or...
There's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We listened to that one. And then the one from, is it Carnegie?
Think and Grow Rich?
No. Oh, shoot. Now I can't remember. But it's old. It's super old. I think it's going to drive me crazy.
Yeah, I'm trying
How to make friends and...
influence people.
Yeah, that one. That one.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's all good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of good ones.
And they are really... a lot of it is just like reaffirming things that you've learned your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you can only be as successful as the least successful person that you're hanging out with, or something like that. You know, you want to surround yourself with
people you hang around with. Mm-hmm.
Like-minded people, sort of, you know, like, if you want to be successful, you need to surround yourself with successful people. And yeah, and like-minded people and stuff like that. I think especially your guys' REI event that you do every month.
Mm-hmm.
That tool, speaking of surrounding yourself with like-minded people, has been so invaluable to Nick in general, and just, and to you, I think, by bringing people together so that they can get the tools that they need, and so that they can talk to each other about problems that they're having on deals and figure out how to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that I see Nick wanting to do, and I say tear the house down, and he sees it completely different, and he just says, no, step 1, we just have to do this, and we'll get through that, and then we go to step 2 and step 3, and they're things that I wouldn't have ever contemplated before.
Mm-hmm. What did you think when he said, I'm going to start this meetup group?
I thought, at first I was like, okay, like, I guess, whatever. When he started doing this, I think he was 29. So he's young, and he had just started back into real estate up here. And so I was kind of like, okay, what are you going to talk about? And kind of nervous for him. And, but then he ended up doing it and starting it, and he's been consistent. Mm-hmm. I kind of thought it would just like fizzle out, and maybe it wouldn't, but it's gained a bunch of momentum, and I think a lot of people rely on it happening every month.
Yeah, it's been interesting with the COVID stuff, trying to do Facebook Lives, and the meetings. We're still doing it, though.
Yeah.
5 years later. I think he started it 5 years ago.
Yeah, and so much of his business and your business has come out of that, you know, like the connections that you guys have made with contractors or lenders or title companies or whatever, you know, like that stuff that wouldn't have happened otherwise, and they've been invaluable relationships. So yeah, I mean, it's been great. I get a little bit frustrated when I'm stuck at home with 2 little kids by myself.
Talk to us about, do you have a memory of Nick and his investing journey, or you two together, where it was like crazy frustrating, and how you got through it?
I mean, generally, I don't know, I can't think of one instance that was like super horrible or anything. There have been times when we've been like really broke, and literally like, okay, we're going to pay this bill, and we can just wait and pay this one in like a couple weeks, and we'll have the money for that one. So, I mean, like, but I can't remember any specific time like that. That was super frustrating because of his real estate investing or anything. There have just been a culmination of a few life events that at the same time were stressful, like when Aubrey was born and she was in the NICU for a while. And then Nick was Oh. Yeah, and Nick was just trying to still do real estate while we're having to be at the NICU for this baby and stuff like that. And then we were broke on top of it. That was a little bit frustrating or unnerving, I guess. There have also been...
Where you like, get a real job. I can't take this inconsistency
and
anymore.
That's the other thing. So my old job, I'd go into work, I'd get done. I didn't have to bring it home at all. There are so many times where, and it's part of the deal, you know, like you guys are real estate agents, you have to be available for your clients. And buying houses for your clients, they're, you know, not normally buying a ton of houses all the time. It's an emotional deal for them. And a lot of times clients are calling a lot. They need a lot of hand-holding and reassuring and things like that through the buying and selling process. And you guys are on your phones all the time. So when Nick comes home, sometimes it's really frustrating to be like, okay, we're going to sit down and have dinner, and we're going to have to try and corral the kids and get them to sit down and eat dinner with us. And then his phone rings. But he's got to take it or whatever, you know. So there's a lot of times where I think maybe the parenting aspect, I feel like, is maybe a little bit more difficult because of that. But then also, he has a lot of flexibility. So it's two-sided. He has a lot of flexibility sometimes to just be able to take our daughter to Silverwood on a day that, you know, that never would happen with a regular job. Like, you're not going to take time off to take your kid to Silverwood.
Right.
But he can make his own schedule. So those are things that are positives.
Gotcha.
Too. Yeah, we were, when we went and got married in Mexico, he was on the phone the entire time.
Oh, I didn't know this.
With somebody. And,
with a client, I hope.
With
a
client. With a client. And it got really frustrating because it was just really frustrating to be like, we're literally 3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
We hardly have service here, and yet.
So both those incidences, when Aubrey was born and you got married, he was just a single agent. Have you seen any changes now that he has a team, or is he still...
Now that he has a team, he has a lot more flexibility.
Okay.
A lot more flexibility. There's a lot more... There's more of a foundation built up, you know, like... If something happens with a client and we're on vacation, he can ask you to help out. Or he got sick the other weekend or whatever. And he reached out to you to see if you could help with some of his showings and things like that. And so now that you guys have the real estate team, he's got a lot more flexibility with that. You know, there's a lot more of support there. He's not bearing the whole burden financially. You guys share that and everything. So, I think, and then since he's been, you know, we've got our rentals and we've got our Airbnb, we have all these other sources of income that help with any, you know.
I know you've been involved with the Airbnb quite a bit. Can you speak to what that deal was, how it's going, and your involvement in it?
Well, we technically have 2. One of the apartments.
That's right. And a fourplex, the basement of a fourplex.
And a fourplex. We chose not to rent out long term and try and do it as an Airbnb. But then the first couple that rented it as an Airbnb have decided to stay for, now it's 7 months, which is great because now I don't have to clean it. And it's just, they're good tenants and stuff like that. We made a different rental agreement with them, and they pay us on, is it Cozy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cozy is a great website for any potential people looking for a system for your tenants to pay you. It takes, the only downside, it's free, but it takes about 7 days for the time they make a payment till it hits your bank account. But it's amazing for getting applications and all kinds of stuff. So just want to give a shout out to Cozy, who did not sponsor this podcast.
But we like it.
Yeah.
So that one has been doing its own thing now. For all that time, I got to decorate the place.
Yes,
that was fun.
Is that your
That's my
favorite
thing.
part of
Yeah.
the whole real estate investing journey?
Pretty much, yeah.
Hillary's an expert shopper on Amazon and Zulily.
Mm-hmm.
Any other websites you'd like to?
I dibble and dabble with Walmart.com or Target.
But they look amazing.
I like to do it to decorate in general. So when I have a whole nother space that I get to just go decorate, it's kind of fun. Like, what girl doesn't like that? Come on. Mm-hmm. But so got to decorate the basement apartment, and now it's been rented out doing its own thing. The cabin Nick bought
close to Kellogg,
a cabin in Wardner.
Yep.
That he actually lived in when I first met him, when he was a car salesman.
So it was a little sentimental.
So it was a little sentimental, and I was like, why are you buying that thing? We're never going to be able to get the money out of it, blah, blah, blah. Now, of course, we're making really good money.
He structured that deal very creatively,
yes,
too.
He did.
As a real estate agent, you can kind of use your commission sometimes as a down payment. So he almost bought that thing for free, if I remember right.
Yeah. His commission was the down payment, and so we didn't have to bring any money to the table for it. And I think maybe if we did, it was like $200 or something. And then, our monthly payment on it, I think, is like $500 a month.
Yeah, it was like a $99,000 cabin, right, or something.
Yeah, so it's a really low monthly payment, but we've managed to have it rented out. Basically, we bought it, was it last October? And then we had to do some just cosmetic stuff. We painted the whole inside of it, and then I got to decorate it.
Furnish it.
And then we put it on Airbnb, and it has been renting out and, making more than the $500 mortgage payment. I think with mortgage and water and everything, we have to clear like $800 a month or something. To break even. And we had a couple come over to this area from Seattle at the start of March. I think they were getting away from the lockdown and everything. And they quarantined basically in our cabin for 3 months. And they paid full price for it for 3 months. So it's been, and then we've had people in it all summer long.
It sleeps how many?
It can sleep 8.
8.
Yeah.
Was it difficult to set up on Airbnb, or how did that process go for you?
Not horribly difficult or anything. It's Nick is like the owner, and I am co-host. So he just made me a co-host for the property, and then we put all the pictures on there and everything. We had Jeremy, our photographer with Ginger Snap, go out and take some professional photos of the place once we got it all decorated and everything. And just put those online, wrote up a description and everything, and it's really just walk through Airbnb makes it very intuitive. You just
Did you put it on VRBO too?
I did not do the cabin on VRBO, just for various reasons. I probably should. But even with the other one, the basement apartment, we only ever got one booking on VRBO with that one. I don't like VRBO as much as Airbnb. It's definitely not as user-friendly. Yeah. So I'm kind of being stubborn and just doing Airbnb.
I don't blame you.
I like it better. Then you don't have to manage.
This podcast sponsored by Airbnb.
Yeah. Then you don't have to manage 2 calendars, which they honestly just link up and stuff like that. But for some reason from my phone, I was looking at the calendar and it didn't show my VRBO booking, and I was all freaking out like, ah. And then I got.
So how much time would you say it takes you to manage it? What, do you also clean it, or how do you do that?
At the moment, I clean it sometimes. We've got one gal who is cleaning it occasionally for us. I am very particular about how it's cleaned. And just with timing and things like that, I think I need to get some other people out there to clean it, just to make sure that, because the girl that's cleaning it right now also has another job. So just need to make sure we have people available to clean it. since I am just working for Nick right now, if I have availability, I'll go out there and clean it to save us the money for the cleaning, which is not that much. It's like $85. So, and it's built into the Airbnb cost. Mm-hmm. So it's really just whatever. But if I don't have anything else to do, I'll go out and clean it. Mm-hmm. One drawback so far is that there's not trash pickup out there. It's kind of a secluded spot. There is the ability for it. Like, they maintain the road and everything, and but we need to call and set that up. And then also we'd have to figure out if they'd have to bring the trash all the way down. It's like a 1/4 mile long driveway. Mm-hmm. So if we had to bring the trash all the way to the end, I don't know if that would really help people who are staying at the Airbnb. Like, oh, do you want to go truck down the garbage cans a mile or 1/4 mile down the road?
Right.
So there's some little things, like I drive out there when we do have people staying there for long term. I drive out like every week and a half or 2 weeks and pick up a bunch of trash and take it to the dump. But otherwise, it's, other than cleaning, which I just need to get more people involved so that I have consistent stuff going on there, then I would very rarely. We just have to respond when people ask us questions about it or whatever on Airbnb.
Has that been fine? Is it getting annoying to have
It's been fine. Yeah. There's really only in the winter time, there were a couple of guests who, and I say in the listing, that the road is maintained, but it can get icy. We live in North Idaho and it snows here. So make sure you're driving a good car that can get back there on potentially icy roads. And so there have been a couple of times where people have been like, can you come help us? We're stuck or whatever. And I'm like, we live 45 minutes away. Like, yeah. I mean, fortunately, one time Nick was able to go out there. And he's like, the girl just wasn't driving fast enough on the road. So, which can be scary to drive fast on icy roads. But it's kind of a little hill and you got to get up over it. And then somebody else got stuck, but then they were able to get themselves out before.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So otherwise it's been really easy. There are improvements that we have been making to the cabin, but that's what we want to do. We don't necessarily have to do it for the Airbnb, but we added a deck and outside seating, so then, we could potentially up our price on it or whatever. We want to put in a hot tub eventually. Yeah. Then we'll be able to,
that'll definitely raise your price.
Yeah, then we'll be able to charge more for it. But there's also, like, if we add the hot tub, we need to probably do something with the electrical, because right now they'd have to tie it into the bathroom and then nobody could use a hairdryer.
Yeah. Challenges.
Yeah. This cabin was built in like 1904, so it's got they're just little things.
Do you have goals to get more Airbnbs, or do you feel like I don't want to manage too many, or how do you feel about that?
I think it could be fine to do a few more, even with, if I got them set up kind of on autopilot with the cleaning and stuff like that. That's, if you have multiples, it's kind of a lot of moving parts. But I think, we make money with it, so it's a very good investment. I'm not opposed to doing more, but if we do get more, I have to figure out different.
Does the whole COVID environment currently give you pause to do this kind of stuff, or do you think it's actually working out even better because, like you said, there were people that wanted to just quarantine and stayed longer?
It's worked out for us. It's totally worked out for us randomly. I was worried when this all started happening that, everybody was going to be canceling left and right. Due to our location and more lenient rules regarding COVID, I think a lot of people have still been wanting to come over here, and that's made our cabin more popular. So it's helped us for sure. But I mean, there are certain things that I go in and clean the cabin. I'm like, hopefully nobody in here had COVID.
Right.
So,
Yeah, just thoroughly cleaning.
yeah, I mean, and then I also want to make sure, and that's why I just want to make sure that the people that I do hire to clean the place know exactly what's expected. I want to make sure that it's, sanitized so that I'm not putting guests who are coming to have a vacation into a potentially dangerous situation. So, yeah.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
So where would you say you will be 5 years from now?
Retired. No.
No, seriously, you could be.
No, I mean, I just want to get more involved with the business and keep helping build the business and build our retirement and stuff like that. Make sure we're set up.
Do you have a goal for how many doors you want to have?
I have not really thought about that. I mean, Nick's always kind of talked about like, oh, well, we could get this much. He was even saying the other day, he was like, well, with our rentals and stuff like that, we could potentially scale back on like how we spend money and just live really cheaply, and we could retire almost right now. I'm like, I don't want to retire on that yet.
Yeah.
So
They call that lean financial independence. You just now have enough where if you had to quit, you could maybe do it.
We'd be fine.
But you want to get to fat fi.
Yeah. I want to be able to take vacations and travel the world and pay for my kids' college, or help them at least with it and things like that. And honestly, I don't think Nick could ever sit still. So even though he's setting himself up so that he could potentially retire in 5 or 10 years, I don't think he ever will.
It's more about the freedom and the flexibility, I think, to achieve that level where money isn't as much of a concern. You don't have to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
You can choose the clients you want to work with and not work with the jerks.
And I think, for now, I don't know that I'd probably go crazy if I just really retired. My kids are going to be going into school in a little bit if they ever open back up. And then I'd really be like, for the majority of the day, like, what am I doing with myself?
Yeah.
And I just feel better about contributing to and bettering our financial bearing and everything, just making sure that we're set up long term. Stuff happens, and I want to make sure that we're set up and that I'm working towards that and that I'm not just drawing on our reserves or whatever.
Right.
So,
do you have any like side passions or things that if you did retire you'd want to pursue more?
I don't know. There are, like, I used to hike a lot. Used to go camping and backpacking a lot. I haven't really been able to do that since we've been so busy and had kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are things like that I'd like to do more. I've mentioned to you, I have a plan to make some blankets, do some sewing, but I can never get around to it. I don't know. I have all these ideas of things that I want to do around the house. Like, I want to make some planters. I know how to make them. I just need the time to go and do it and go get the wood and do it.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that are always floating around in my brain.
Yeah.
That I'd occupy myself with, but play some pickleball with Joe and Cameron.
It's about time. It's about damn time. What would you say for other couples struggling with, like, one person super entrepreneur, maybe a risk taker, and the other person isn't? Is there any advice you would give?
Just to try and get involved and understand what they're doing. I mean, like I mentioned, I made Nick walk me through how he does these, how he decides that it's a good deal, because I see these old places that he gets, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't touch that with, a 10-foot pole. But then he walks me through it all, and it makes sense. And it's hard sometimes going through a flip. You come, problem after problem after problem, not knowing the right contractors. Or this is one piece of advice is, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. We had some rough learning experiences on our first flips with people who said they were contractors, or they could do this, we can do this, and then the window's not actually screwed to the wall, or whatever. So
or the plumbing's
messed up,
backwards or whatever. I think, would you agree, a big lesson is, hire it out, pay a little bit more versus trying to cut corners and just especially for licensed jobs like plumbing and electrician.
Yeah. And the first 1 or 2 flips that we did a lot of the work ourselves, gutting it, cleaning it out, painting, things like that. But hire out your electricians and your plumbers and things like that. They're going to save you money in the long run if you just get it done right the first time, so that you don't have to spend money redoing something that was done incorrectly. And it's for your peace of mind. You're going to resell these properties, or you're going to rent them out. You want to have pride in your work and make sure that people are happy with what you sold them, and not thinking you're, like a loser. Ripping them off. What's the snake? I don't know. Anyways.
Shady.
Yeah, shady.
Shady person.
So anyways, we have been learning, to just make sure that you know who you're working with. And if you have to pay a little bit more to get it done right, ultimately it's going to save you money, because you're not going to have to tear it out and have it redone by somebody who knows how to do it right later.
Yeah. Probably would have saved you guys thousands in the long run if you would have just taken that advice. But
Yep.
Also, I think getting a home inspection is another big lesson. Nick used to just walk through properties with a contractor, and now even when it seems pretty simple, he gets a home inspection. You just don't know.
You don't know.
Some surprises. And even when you do have that, there's going to be surprises. But I think it served you guys well to both have, in general, easygoing personalities, too. I don't know. Would you say that?
Nick is more easygoing than I am, but I am very type A. But
Hillary wears the pants, if you guys didn't.
But at the same time, I trust my husband. I know he's not an idiot. Took a little bit of time to learn that. But I trust my husband, and he's proven himself and everything. And so sometimes now when he shows me something that my initial reaction is like, no, I just say, just do what you got to do. Just go do what you got to do. And now that I'm working with him, I guess I have to get a little bit more involved. But it's good. I want to know exactly what we're doing. I want to be able to help him, economies of scale and scope and things like that, and make sure that we're not wasting money on things that we have in the past. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thanks, Hillary.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Just a delightful conversation.
Yeah.
And I hope some people could take away some, ideas. And I think just getting on the same page with your partner and having them explain things if you don't understand, if you're not the investor, seem to have really helped you guys.
Definitely.
And pickleball helps too, so you should really play it.
You gotta keep active. Next time, we'll bring wine.
Wine and pickleball, everybody. Join us on the Atlas courts.
For sure.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Investor Shed podcast. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for instant access to all future episodes. If you or someone you know has investing experience or stories to share, reach out to us in the comments or via email.